So tonight I'm going to talk about self-care. Sounds like a familiar word. I'm sure you all have heard of self-care. But I feel like the word is thrown around a lot and not many know what it actually means. So I'm curious to hear. Does anybody here know what self-care is? Anybody? Self-care? Yeah, Michael.
Doing the things to take care of yourself you wouldn't normally think of doing.
Yes, that's a very accurate description. Yeah. Does anyone know why self-care is important? Yeah.
To keep functioning and not break down.
Yeah. Nice.
To help yourself so you can help others.
Yes. Those are all very accurate descriptions of self-care. So here's the thing. We all have busy lives, whether we're in school, whether we're at work, and we get stressed out, we get overwhelmed, and sometimes it gets the better of us. So self-care is fundamental to allow us to be intentional and be focused on the things we want to do. So self-care is mainly is more renowned in the health care field because when you're taking care of others with mental health issues or medical issues or whatsoever, that has a real toll on you. It takes away a lot of your energy. Yes, and trust me, you guys have no idea. For real. It really takes away all the energy you have, and if you don't make self-care a priority of yours, you will burn out very quickly. So self-care is sort of born in the healthcare field, but self-care has sort of like gained popularity in many other fields because just life as we've evolved has become more and more anxiety-provoking and more stressful. We get more busy. We have to like sit in traffic more, and we have to do all these things that sort of like put weight on our shoulders. And at the end of the day, we feel that we are sort of exhausted. And then we go to sleep, we wake up, and we're like, hey, I'm ready for a new day. Sure, drink my coffee, go again. But then over a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if we're just going to be working, and just doing the things we have to do, eventually we're going to start feeling that we really don't want to get up in the morning, and we really don't want to go to work, and we really don't want to go to school. And all that feels like sort of redundant. It's like, what's the point? I'm just going to stay in bed and Netflix and chill all day. So that's really where you can end up if you don't take care of yourself. So I wanted to talk about what self-care is and what self-care is not. So first of all, self-care is something that you like doing. Not something that someone else likes doing, not something that your mom told you should be enjoying. So it has to be something that actually you look back and be like, oh, that was fun, I would do that again. That really made me feel good. So that's number one. Self-care is also not something that is exhausting or something that you don't want to do. If you're like, oh my God, I don't want to go to that event, then obviously that event is not going to be self-care for you. It's going to be an event that is taking energy away from you rather than recharging your batteries. So those are two things so that's one thing that self-care is and something that self-care is not. So I want you all to think for a second, what is something that you maybe already do in your normal routine and maybe you don't really view it as self-care, but you look forward to it every week. So every week or every 2 weeks or whenever it happens, you're like, nice, that's happening, I'm really going to have a good time. So I want you all to think of that for like 10 seconds. And then we'll proceed. So whatever you thought of, and I'm not going to ask you to share it, don't worry about it. I bet that what you thought is probably not what the person next to you thought. So what what's one very important thing to know about self-care? That self-care looks different for every person. So if someone tells you, oh my God, I did this yoga class, it was amazing, I feel like I'm so refreshed, and you're like, wow, I gotta do it, that's gonna be like my self-care. It might work for you, I'm not saying that it won't, but if it doesn't, that doesn't mean that you failed at your self-care. What works for one person doesn't necessarily work for the other person. So maybe for one person, self-care, it could be like counting beans in the kitchen, and that's like somehow refreshing to that person and it feels good. I don't know. But if that's what makes that person feel good, not me, I don't count beans in the kitchen or anything. But if it makes you feel good, then it makes you feel good. And no one should be questioning what your self-care is, because you should know what your self-care is. You should know what it is that makes you feel good and what does not make you feel good. So that's number one. Number two is to not convince yourself that something is self-care for you. So, if you're telling yourself that, let's come up with a good example for this. I don't know, let's say peer pressure. A lot of your friends are doing something and you feel that you have to do this, and this is like part of your weekend, and this is like something that you're going to do because everyone else is doing. That might be something you want to do to spend time with your friends, but if it's not fun to you, that's not considered self-care. So it's important to identify what self-care is and what self-care is not. Second, I'm going to talk about how to make self-care part of your routine. So there are 3 steps. First of all is the basics. First of all, you want to identify what self-care is in your life, and that can be something that you're already doing. So if you play a sport, or you have a yoga or meditation practice, or something that you feel that rejuvenates you in some way, because the day later you're like, hey, I'm really excited about this day, and maybe that morning, the morning before, you were like, life sucks. So if you are feeling better about life in general after a certain activity that you normally do, that could be your self-care. So first of all, you want to identify what is your self-care. And again, it's important to know that self-care looks different for everyone. And then I'll talk later about things that could be universally self-care for everyone. There are certain things that like everyone can do and are self-care. But that's number one. Number two is to plan it, to make sure that you put aside a couple hours every week for your self-care. So you get busy, you have responsibilities, work, school, kids, family, whatever, and sometimes time gets the better of you and you just sort of like don't have time to spend for yourself and do something that is actually beneficial to your own mental health. So it's important to make it an intrinsic part of your calendar and not be like, if I will have time, then I will do that fun thing. I will go out to eat with my girlfriend, wife, or I'll go play basketball, or go on a hike, or go skiing. Whatever it is, it shouldn't be if I have time. It should be because I want to maintain a healthy lifestyle and have a healthy mental health, then this is a priority. It should be a priority as much as your other responsibilities. So that's number two. Number three is to be realistic about what works for you, and we already touched on that before, is again, you shouldn't be pushing yourself to reach a certain goal as part of your self-care. It shouldn't be like, oh, my self-care is going to be able to run a marathon, full marathon. And right now you're like maybe running 10 miles and you're like pushing yourself every day, and that's not your self-care. Yeah, running could be your self-care, but it shouldn't be something that like you have to push yourself to do, and shouldn't be like an unrealistic goal. We all have goals, and those are important in our lives, but self-care is not a goal. Self-care is just something where we're present, and we don't have to like make an effort or have to like push yourself to do it. It shouldn't be like, I really don't want self-care. If it feels that way, it's not self-care. And yeah, so there are a few things that are universally self-care, like eating a healthy diet, eating like just organic foods, whether it's like fruits, vegetables, nuts, or anything that is not processed. That's definitely good for your overall health and also for your mental health. Having some sort of practice, whether it's praying, meditating, yoga, these practices are known to sort of rejuvenate your mental health and just your overall health. And there's a longer list, but I'm not going to go through it, but you get the point. I'm going to end with two quotes. I found this online. It's an unknown author. An empty lantern provides no light. Self-care is the fuel that allows your light to shine brightly. If you are not taking care of yourself, if you are not refueled and have the energy to dedicate yourself to other people, then there won't be anything there for other people. And in the Pirkei Avot it says, "Imen ani li mili," which means if I am not for myself, who will be for me? And I feel that that really applies to self-care. In order to be there for other people, you have to be there first for yourself, and then you can actually be beneficial around other people, because we all know that we could be antagonizing sometimes around other people if we're burnt out and we're not just like feeling it. So we want to be there for other people in the best way possible, and for that we have to take care of ourselves.
Right.